Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Lunch with an Expert here in the Clubroom, brought to you by Win Again, or in with the lounge. I guess it's the lounge. And I'm super excited today to have Tim Daniels in here. And I'm going to bring him in and start doing a quick little intro. Super fast. Tim was born and raised in Nebraska, which is one of those states right in the middle there. Right in the middle, you'll find it, Nebraska. He graduated Stanford University. And it's one of those small schools in California, and then received his master's degree from University of Chicago. He began his career and developed it in the high-tech world as an executive with IBM. He was doing all kinds of IT consulting, then realized he was way too smart, and he moved on to running his own home care company, and he did that for several years. But his big passion today is really improving health, improving self-care, and all through using evidence-based approaches. And he's with a company called BEMER. We'll talk about them in a minute. He's been with them for 5 years, and he's in Connecticut right now, right?
Yep, you got it.
All right, cool.
And there's one little small thing. Although I consider myself Nebraskan, third generation on my mother's side. I was actually born in Fort Huachuca, Arizona, but raised in Nebraska.
Oh, whoops. All right. Thank God we corrected that for the record.
My Nebraskan buddies would really be after me. They do consider me Nebraskan, but they say you gotta be completely open and transparent. So I do.
All right. I hope they're not watching this, but that might be soon. But look, I think the first thing I want to jump right into is the following. It's interesting. One of the things I joke with people sometimes about is that I say, look, I think I'm going to live to 100, I'll say it, 159 years old. And people are like, what, are you crazy? I said, well, look, because, in my opinion, medicine and technology and self-care and so forth, every day there are new advances, every week, every month, every year. And I truly hope, anyway, I'm knocking on everything here, that by the time I'm in my 70s and 80s and so forth, there'll be enough advancements in the world of medicine that, I won't be necessarily falling prey to a lot of the things that are killing people. And I'm hoping that, continuing, the advances will continue. And, one of the things that's happening today is a lot of what, BEMER is working on, but, more specifically, the whole idea of, microcirculation and really, how can you and why should you be involved with trying to worry about your blood circulation? So I guess that's the first question I'm going to ask you is really, why on earth? I mean, first of all, who thought of this and why and why is it important?
Yeah. So and one item I don't know, 159. I'd love to see you make it. However, I do believe, and I think there's some scientific support to it, and certainly where I play on the religious side to it, of being able to make it to 100, 120. And I think the human body, whether you want to say is created or is designed to be that. So it is indeed a matter of how do you get there, and how do you get there in a body that you want to functioning like you want to be in it.
Right.
Okay. And you can be. I've seen both sides in that home care world, which has really kind of led me on my quest, and as we talk about, where I saw people in their 70s that seemed like they were 90 years old. But by the same token, I ran into people who were 90 and they were very, very sprite. There's a whole thing now called super aging. As to how do you be one of those people that might be 90, but perform like they're 40 or 45 years old. And there's a whole context of the people traveling around to the blue zones around where people have around the world. There's China, there's one in Italy, other places where people have got to advanced ages with fewer problems, and functioning better. Part of that revolves around, let's say, the microcirculation. For example, there is over in China, we found that people were taking this thing herb called geogulin. We're making a tea out of it. Mm-hmm. And it's also known as the immortality grass. And what that did was that really helped with inflammation, but also helped with microcirculation. Same they found in the little place in Italy that I can't pronounce, so I'm not even going to try and pronounce where that one was. But look up Italy, blue zones, a tea. It was a tea they were making there. So microcirculation is proven over and over again in various ways. It is very very key. It's just a lot of conventional medicine in the U.S. hasn't looked at it. There was a German guy, doctor named Rainier Klopp, who actually happened to be one of the leading independent scientists with BEMER, evaluating BEMER later on.
Mm-hmm.
He had written books on microcirculation, and where it's taught in medical schools, it's his thing. But why is that key? Well, first you got to start with blood flow. It's not everything, but without it, you have nothing. You can't go that long without oxygen getting to the cells and transporting things. And what you got, biblically, we'll say the life is in the blood. It's the river of life. You've got but people when they talk about blood flow and circulation, they often focus on the heart, arteries, and veins. If you look at it, though, and that's where doctors are, well, how's your heart? Are your arteries hardened? Are they clogged? Things of that nature. But that's only 26% of the cardiovascular system. The whole other 74% circulatory system are made up of capillaries, which are the small vessels, which are the microcirculation. And that's what gets your blood to your cells, right? As those capillaries. You can think of it, being a Midwesterner, I-80, that's I-80 is the big highway, that's the artery. But if you wanted to get to my hometown of Grand Island, you had to get off on Highway 281, and then you had to take a Locust Street, and you had to get to 7th Street. Those are the arteries. Those are the capillaries.
Yeah.
That's what gets you home. That's what delivers the nutrients, proteins. That's what and oxygen and other nutrients to the cells. That's what takes away the metabolic waste and things of that nature. So that's extremely, extremely key. When you maintain that, when you improve that, that's where you get health at the cellular level. Better cells lead to better tissues, lead to better organs, lead to better overall body, right? So let
me jump in with a quick question. So because you're right, I think most of us, just lay people, I guess the average person, we do focus completely almost on the heart, maintaining the heart, maintaining our cardio, making sure that we don't smoke because that'll harden the arteries and that sort of thing. And it's really interesting to hear that really we're not necessarily focusing on the 74%. And so with that said, I can tell, for example, how important it is sort of for the health to be able to maintain and improve microcirculation. But tell me a little bit before we go into this sort of more of that, why is it important for our mental health? Like, I mean, I know how it can improve our physical health, but tell me a little bit about the mental side.
Well, you take a look at when it's the same thing that the blood is surrounded by circulatory systems. You can find this new thing they call a lymphatic system. It's pseudo circulation up there, and it clears away things when you sleep. All that's still dependent upon blood flow. The only way that oxygen gets to the brain is blood flow. Okay. When you've got less oxygen getting to the brain, it breaks down like any other organ, which affects it mainly. When you give more to it, people found you're more relaxed, you concentrate better. So it can help from both cognitive function as well as mental, as well as a mental state aspect of it.
Well, look, I think by nature, when people feel healthier, they're going to be sounder mentally. I mean, they're just going to be more, as you said, less stressed out, maybe more relaxed and more. It's funny. I used to tell people, and you mentioned it earlier. I've known people that are 40 and look 60 and the other way around, right? And I often tell people, well, I think a lot of that has to do with their disposition in general. Like, for example, if someone is typically a very, glass is half empty and negative and worrying about everything all the time and so forth, I feel that they age. What I tell people is, every one of us, we age on a 24-hour clock. We are, you are 36 years old based on the 24-hour clock, right? And, I say to people, look, I know people that I feel they age 30 hours a day. Like they just look older. And then there's some people that you look at them and you say, oh my gosh, you're only blank. It's because I tell them they only age 18 hours a day, right? Their disposition and their attitude and so forth. But look, I think a lot of that ties into their overall health and the way they take care of themselves. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. And microcirculation certainly is really key, but there are a lot of components to the true health and self-care. You're right on target. It's do you have a purpose? People that live with purpose, have more energy. How do you feel towards your fellow human being if you treat them don't want to get too sappy? We Midwesterners try very much not to get sappy. We're not like you New Yorkers who really show that.
Oh, we're so
think,
sappy. Yeah.
Yeah, New Yorkers. People think New Yorkers are hard, but they're very emotional, very out there people right there. So, but if you are you living from a purpose of love, so you don't get you're less when you do that. You're less tempted to get angry when somebody cuts you off, or less tempted to get angry when somebody doesn't hold the door open for you when you're going in someplace. That anger keeps the cortisol down. It's the stress hormones, which leads to inflammation. All those things, absolutely. Mental attitude, purpose, other components are very key. And there are just so I don't truncate that too much. Are you eating right? Are you exercising right? If you need pharmaceuticals, are you taking the right ones? And yes, are you helping as part of that, addressing that microcirculation? It's all key to your target of making that to 159 and doing it right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably a little concerned about the 159. It might just be, I'll be like a floating head in some sort of bottle of something with, I don't know what it'll be, but I'll be there maybe, because this way then I won't be hitting middle age until, oh no, it's 158. I'm sorry, because then my mid-age crisis will hit when I'm 79. Anyways, so back to microcirculation and so forth. What are some of the ways that people are currently trying to improve that sort of those levels and that sort of thing?
So there are a number of good things, and many of them should be combined. For example, exercise will improve it to some extent, and you should do it that way for maintaining strength of muscles and other parts and other functioning. Absolutely, and more. Not our topic today, but just related to it. People used to think, yeah, fine, I'll exercise. That helps my heart. But they're finding whether it's both the aerobic and the anaerobic, the resistance training, which lead to really boosting things such as the immune system and other things. So there are truly medical benefits to different types of exercise. So, but exercise can help with that. Use of sauna, people use saunas, that will affect circulation.
Oh, yeah.
Massage therapy does affect circulation, both of them macro circulation to extend it to micro.
Question, sorry, Professor. So what is the difference in, you mentioned sauna.
Yeah.
What about a steam room or something, or is that different?
Well, anything that raises the kind of the temperature of the body is going to do that. It's like, one of the purposes of the heating pad, right, is circulation. So,
I see.
Will they do it at varying degrees and little different mechanisms, whether it's steam or non-steam sauna? Okay. Yes, but will they help to some degree? Absolutely. Types of food, beets are what they call a vasodilator that helps kind of the blood flow at various levels of it. And then a lot of people take a nitric oxide activator, and which nitric oxide helps with the motion. Let's call it the motion. It's called vasodilation, vasomotion of the large cells into the extent the small cells. Challenged. So all of them do it to a certain degree. All of them are helpful. Vasodilators they're very popular. The challenge with them is most of them use a certain path in the body called the L-arginine path, which is actually very complex to get working. And actually, that pathway deteriorates over time as we age. So you should be doing other things. Food, like I said, the food's good, but you got to know what type of food and do you really get in the right quantities. There are supplements like ginkgo biloba that was studied, and that will. But how much do you need? What's the right amount? And what's the purity source? So yeah, but all those are.
No, I don't eat. I don't like beets, so am I screwed, or is there something else?
There are other vasodilators, but also yoga will do it. Qigong will do it. While they're looking for other things, you see the athletes using cupping. They'll use cryotherapy. Cryotherapy, yes, will reduce inflammation, but it's also done from the standpoint of once you get out of that cold, it's a snapback effect. That opens it back up to.
I see.
More circulation getting to things.
That makes sense. Yeah. So tell me a little bit now about the company BEMER, but more importantly, what is the what's the goal? Like, what's their mission to? In other words, if I said, well, I'm interested in raising or improving my microcirculation. I really want to feel better and be healthier and so forth. How does BEMER come into the equation?
Yeah. So it falls into a category. It falls into a number of things that you can call BEMER electroceuticals. You can call it high-tech medicine. You can call it biotech, but also falls in this category called pulsed electromagnetic field, PEMF, which I encourage. That's where I really encourage everybody. I'll take a look both at electroceuticals and PEMF in general. Why do I say electroceuticals? Don't hold me to the date, but I want to say maybe 2016, 2017. The parent company of Google, Alphabet, and GlaxoSmithKline put together with $750 billion and invested that in coming up with electroceuticals as medical applications to actually cure diseases. So this is not a theoretical field. It's not an ignored field. It's big business. Then PEMF, pulsed electromagnetic field therapy, it's got in addition to all PEMF is good. There are differences in PEMF devices, but that's got a range of impacts on the health, wellness, fitness puzzle. And one of those is indeed that it helps with microcirculation. And why is that a good way? It's very easy to use, doesn't really require change in behavior that much. You either lay on one or you lay one on you. And that's it. It's non-invasive, it's non-pharmaceutical, and non-chemical, and for the most part operates without side effects. Okay? And that's why, in general, it's important and people should look at it.
So, give me a sense of the equipment itself. Is it something that I would lay on my arm or my back or my, how does that work?
Some of them are. Some would just do that. There are little devices you put on there and things. The BEMER implementation, that I like the best, that has several components. One of it's just like think of a high-end yoga mat that you lay on and you plug into a computer. That creates a magnetic field. It's sent to your body. Within that, it contains a signal that your body resonates with your body. Your body says, "Boy, I understand this," and gets in accord with. And from that, opens up blood flow in the body.
How long would you recommend?
The ultimate on that. So BEMER itself is used everywhere from in some countries, and I got to be careful as we talk about the U.S. here. Some countries it's used in the incubators of premature babies. In my old world, it's brought a lot of elderly back off the sick beds, and then you've got well over 1,000 professional, and Olympic athletes that use it. If you've got something chronic you're dealing with, or you're an athlete that you want to do something with, the ultimate is you've got one and you lay on it twice a day for 8 minutes for the full body.
8 minutes. Got it.
Yeah, people can go in. I spend a lot of time getting it in the hands of health, wellness, fitness professionals. People can use it a couple of times a week and get fantastic health and wellness benefit from it.
Now, is there does it matter where it is on the body? If I'm doing a full body, am I laying on it on my back, but it still impacts my legs and my hands and so forth, or do I need to put it on every part?
Well, you don't need to put it on every part. It depends on what you're trying to work on and achieve, where you do localize, because the body is an amazing thing. You lay on these things, you pull stuff through it. We call it beyond the coils, because you're all laying on these coils. There's underneath the coils effective beyond one. And what's that beyond? Your body communicates. The cells communicate to it. So you get a good portion of the body go. It communicates with the other trillions of cells in there, and you can get the whole body going. But that said, if you've got soreness in your shoulder, if you've got numbness in your feet, you want to pay that a little extra special attention to get that microcirculation and the benefits of that going. So then, you put a peripheral, but a larger or smaller parts of the body on there.
Now, if let's say I do have this right shoulder pain or something, is it something that's meant to reduce the pain, just to reduce the feeling of the pain, or is it something that also speeds up the recovery process?
Okay. Now where I'm hesitating here, where I'm going to tell you BEMER, where I'm going to tell you PEMF, and that decides what words I use. Let's discount and throw out the term BEMER and focus more on PEMF.
Okay.
And why BEMER is an FDA clear class 2 device. So reasonable assurance of safety and efficacy. That means there really are some things that you have to be very, very cautious on what claims and statements you make. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So let's stay away from that. PEMF is a general category that can apply to a lot of devices, and there are a lot of general studies on that. In that PEMF world, you can say, yes, PEMF in general is meant to help with pain. And it does it differently. Most medication either blocks the pain signal from being sent or blocks it from being received. PEMF kicks up the body's own way of handling that and making that stronger. But yes, let's go back to why that microcirculation, and all PEMF helps with microcirculation to an extent. Some more, some less, some are optimized for it. But also when you kick up that microcirculation through PEMF, yes, you're focused on healing, because that gets back to that cells. When you get back to those cells functioning better, part of the cells is replicating. Part of it is repair. The body's first electric, then chemical. So when you kick off electricity, some of the repair proteins, like heat shock protein 70, other things get released. And so it's working to the extent it can to help heal it. So what I say the extent it can, if you're missing things up there, if you're missing cartilage, if something's really broken up there, you're not going to get back to where you were 10 years old, right?
Right.
But it'll help heal it to the extent that it can, which can lead to both. So now you're getting both short-term discomfort relief, as well as maybe being able to decrease the average discomfort that one receives over time, because you get immediate, progressive, and cumulative effects in the body.
You know, it's interesting. There's sometimes it's hard to measure things like that, because you'd almost have to compare, well, I injured my right shoulder and now I'm not going to use anything for 2 weeks, and then I'm going to re-injure it again and then see if BEMER works. There's no way to really do that. So I think what has to happen is,
well, Mark, I got to challenge you a little bit on that.
Yeah, love it.
Right, because actually, but we'll say PEMF. There are actually, because that's why sometimes I slip into discomfort, especially when I'm talking about the products. I'm not supposed to use the P word. In the PEMF world, we can use the P word of pain, because it's a medical term. So that's actually, as you said, that's actually a pain scale that will say 1 to 10. You put it on there,
right?
And PEMF. If someone goes out and just we've never really touched upon this. I call PEMF a well-known secret, because if you go out to YouTube and you put in PEMF, all of a sudden you'll get tons of things coming back. If you go into Google Scholar and put in PEMF therapy, boy, all of a sudden these studies show up on that. So there have indeed been good double-blind, placebo-controlled studies focusing on pain and other things through PEMF, where they show it does improve. But I will side with you on this factor where it gets challenging, is because it gets back to where we started. PEMF, for the most part, it doesn't produce any heat, it doesn't produce any cold, it doesn't produce any vibrating. There are some that cause some vibration, but most of them don't. So therefore, they don't feel anything. So people will say, boy, I had a hockey player one time, bad back. And I warned him beforehand. I said, people get off of this sometimes and they say, boy, I feel better. But they say it must be all in my head because I laid down. And so he got on it. He felt, and everybody's different. Sometimes it's immediate, sometimes it takes time. He got off and immediately felt better. But what were the first words out of his mouth? He said, it must have been because I laid down. I said, come on. Then he stopped himself, thought about what I said. He said, well, yeah, how many times have I laid down for 8 minutes and gotten back up and it felt better? He said, not many. So this must have really done something. So.
There you go. The proof's in the pudding there. Now, so when you're saying you don't feel anything, tell me a little bit about the mechanics of it. So I'm laying down on what looks like a yoga mat, but so you're saying I don't feel anything. I'm literally just, or do I?
Most 60 in my personal, the studies and things will say actually more like 80%. And my personal experience has been more like 60 to 65%. So let's stay with 80, which is more. 80% of people feel absolutely nothing.
Okay. All right.
On a PEMF device. Those that do, what they feel is they might feel some heat, some tingling, some pulsing, nothing unpleasant. But when they do feel that, it's sensations, and it's sensations coming from their own body for whatever reason. Sometimes that reason is because, like when I used it first on my knees that were damaged from my wrestling days, I felt heat coming back in there. That's because especially in joints, circulation is poor. It gets very little. Circulation getting back in there, firing things back up, starting to work again. I could feel heat come out of there, but that's all internally generated, nothing from the device itself.
That's really cool. So, tell me a little bit about, what separates then. I mean, look, obviously something drew you to join BEMER a few years ago. I mean, the company itself has been around quite a while, but maybe all right, let's do some name dropping. Give me an idea of some of the athletes who've been known to use this product. And
so you got one, let's just take teams. You have teams around the world that have, athletic teams around the world that have written FC Schalke. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. That I actually had a German person tell me the other day how to pronounce it, and hopefully I can remember it correctly. The German national team, FC Schalke, uses it, and their medical staff has written up a testimonial about it. The head trainer of the Arizona Diamondbacks at the time has a written testimonial about it. There's a partnership with the San Francisco 49ers, and it's one of their. They'll hold me to it's. I think it's like one of their performance therapists who's on staff with them. He's written up a testimonial and is in a partnership with it. The company had a successful technology collaboration with NASA that was renewed a couple of times, at least one time. So that showed that progress was being made. They evaluated, did it, and got what they wanted out of it. Then you have individual athletes that are known to use it, like Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal. Phil Mickelson has tweeted about it. Mike Ware, who's like 51, 52 now, a Canadian won the Masters.
Yeah.
And he explicitly credits that it's brought a lot back. The way he phrased it, there has to be some connection between my resurgence and my getting on the top again and me starting to use BEMER. Tyson McGuffin, pickleball player. But the pickleball, as you're probably aware, is now the fastest growing participation sport in the U.S., if not the world. People are taking pickleball tours all over.
Yeah.
So it's a big deal. Boris Becker, old tennis players, Boris Becker has written a testimonial on it. So it's arguably some of the best of the current time and some of the best of all time are users of it.
That's fantastic. So aside from athletes, I mean, is this also something that, because you mentioned them, but tell me, some of the other, I mean, you mentioned earlier, elderly and so forth, but tell me, who are some of the, like the most, I mean, we joked about this the other day, but I guess I want to hear it again. Who's this best for?
Yeah. And that's why it's a wide spectrum, right? And again, even when I talk to PEMF versus BEMER specifically, for the most part, you guys say it's not meant to diagnose, treat, or cure any disease. That said, when you talk about, and our main topic here was that microcirculation.
Yeah, it's
been shown that over 44,000 conditions where a component of the problem, sometimes small, sometimes huge, is compromised blood flow at that level. When you improve that, you can help with a lot of things. Will it cure it? Not going to cure it. Will it help manage the complications? Will it improve the quality of life? In some cases, will it speed healing? Absolutely. So I would encourage anybody with something chronic to do their due diligence, investigate PEMF, and look at it. And certainly for anyone, where we started the conversation, anyone who wants to be a super ager, they need to look at it. Because part of what it does, with that microcirculation, we didn't really never talk about all the benefits of it. But you're going to get better. You get better sleep. Better sleep leads to better health.
Yeah.
When you have more energy, then you recover faster from exercise. You're more prone to exercise. When you've improved that blood flow, now if you're eating right, now the nutrients can get to where they want to, and they can be absorbed better for more efficacy. So now what I'm saying is that it's not the whole puzzle, but it can make everything that you're doing right better and more effective and enable you to do those things. So anyone that's got something chronic, they should deal with it. Anybody who wants to be a super ager, they should look at it. Everybody who wants to be super performance
Mm.
Definitely should to look at it. It's legal performance enhancing, optimizes training, recovery faster from training, reduce injuries, and when does have injury, recover faster from injuries, things of that nature.
Oh, that's fantastic. So I'm going to jump into the BEMER specific mode in a second, just so and it's not meant to be a plug for the company necessarily, but more so if people are interested. So before I do that though,
Right.
Tim, give me an idea of what's a good way for someone to get a hold of you today and now and going forward, if they're interested in hearing more specifically from you.
Sure. You should use my personal. They can usually find me on LinkedIn if they want to and connect that way. Do that. They should use my personal email, and that personal email is Tim Daniels, so TIMDANIELS HC. H is go back to my old father's training of phonetic alphabet. H is in hotel, C is in Charlie. So Tim Daniels HC at gmail.com.
Cool. That's great. So and then next is so the company BEMER, they've been around a long time. They produce these units that can be a little bit expensive and so forth for most people. But I encourage everybody participating, listening, and so forth to think about, well, who do they know in their network, in their world, that might have an interest in bringing on some of these units for if they're in a elderly care center, neonatal care, any sort of athletic team or league that can actually bring in sort of 2 or 3 of these units to be able to share amongst everybody. Because I think from what I've heard, you can actually rent these as well. Is that correct, or how's it work?
Yeah. One, I think they're certainly, it's not pocket change for everyone, but they're they're good investments. That said, they can be rented. Most of the rental pricing is more conducive to short-term rentals, but they can, and sometimes people just need things for short term.
Yeah.
But yes, they can be rented as well.
Okay. And I mean, look, they're give or take $5,000 and up, and then there's I'm sure there's all kinds of ways to package and make deals and so forth. But the other thing is that I know that on occasion you'll also you can reward people that make a sale. So obviously, if someone out there is current or recently retired or retired athlete, or somebody who wants to make a little extra here and there, you're happy to have a conversation with them and talk to them about how they can effectively become a quote distributor, whether they want to do it on a full time or just they happen to know somebody who knows someone, that sort of thing. So
absolutely right. And I mean, you're right on that level of participation. Sometimes people just want to make referrals in order to be able to pay off their own BEMER. Sometimes they just want to do a little bit. Great. And one indeed can make a significant, meaningful living on it if they want to do it that way as well. And so it was really whatever suits that person. But what I will say, I think I haven't had one of these people, whether they're a practitioner or individual, who uses it. They want to talk about it and share about it because it just has that type of impact on someone's life when they start using it.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay. Well, we're a little bit out of time right now, Tim, but I truly appreciate your time. And this is it's exciting to me to hear all the different ways I can get to that 158 or 159 or whatever it is. And this sounds like one of them. And I get the feeling that the more that people learn and know about microcirculation and the benefits of increasing it, whether it's locally or throughout the body, I think that's fantastic. And thank you so much for your time today. And we'll certainly be connecting much further down the road.
All right, my pleasure. Thanks for being here, and let me be having a forum to help spread the message, because that's what it is about. The people need to hear about this, need to evaluate it for themselves, and make a good choice. And I appreciate the ability to have time with you, Mike.
My pleasure. Thanks so much, Tim.